All right, folks, how we doing out there tonight? Doc and Mav here with ReadySetLive. Welcome aboard. Let us know if you guys have anything that you want to bring up for us. We'll be on here for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then we are going to duck away for the evening. Just a couple of things to cover with you guys for tonight is, let's see, we are starting the coaching next week. Starting the coaching next week at Tuesday. So Tuesday I'll be doing, now I did hold the vote that you guys participated in, and I held 3 time frames out there, and 2 were clear winners, and they were actually tied side by side for the vote for this. So the first one that we're going to do on Tuesday is going to be 8 p.m. Eastern, midnight UTC. So the Europeans are not going to like that one, but again, this is going to be on a replay. So if there is a question that you want me to cover during the session, make sure you get that into me well ahead of time. And then the other time frame that we're going to alternate back and forth. So we'll do that 8 p.m. Eastern time, the first and third sessions, and the second and fourth sessions. The other winner was 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC, so that's perfect for the Europeans. Probably a terrible time for those of you in Asia. But like I said, there's going to be no one perfect time for all of this, so that's what we're going to be doing. So kind of the format of the session for these is going to be, again, if you did sign up for the coaching, the optional coaching session for the Fractal Energy program, is I'm going to cover one topic per evening. So I'm going to drill on some things. We'll talk about it for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then I will throw it open to the wolves out there, and I will cover any questions that you either had written in ahead of time that I need to cover, or that you're talking live. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Tig. How we doing out there? Hope I got that right this time. So, yeah, we ignorant Americans that we are. So that's the coaching session. Let's see, what else did I have? What do you got?
Well, we will be starting a new class in a week, and it's going to be sort of a boot camp class. We've gotten a whole lot of requests. You gotta get in frame, getting out of frame there.
No, sir.
So that's going to be sort of a very beginner level class, meant to address, just if you know nothing about cryptocurrency, if you know nothing about blockchain, just what to do, how to get started, just the most common questions we get, and I'll put my own kind of spin on it. Hopefully it'll be a little bit interactive. I'm going to kind of model it after the Fractal class that he's built. So there's going to be a lot of written materials, there's going to be quizzes, and there will even be a coaching element as well. So that should be a lot of fun. So we're just sort of in class building mode right now. We're just kind of, doing the best we can to provide you guys the best quality content on in the crypto sphere,
Cryptoverse.
The crypto camp. So, but yeah, other than that, it's a wild and crazy market out there. Not really. It's very boring right now. But there is some good stuff happening. It's what we often find is like the market is the most boring when the most interesting stuff is happening. It's kind of define this bear market. So I don't know, today has been kind of interesting to watch the news come out. I've been talking to some guys in DC at the FinTech Forward event that's going on right now with that's hosted by the CFTC, and they're kind of talking about the recent ruling that came out on the 29th of September, and how that affects the regulation and the rule, like the rule of law regarding cryptocurrency going forward. And just basically the ruling was, and I really hate that this was the name of the coin that the federal judge dictated law upon, but it was my Bitcoin. And so basically the implication of this is that
Thank God it wasn't Spank Chain.
or yeah, something like that.
Who thought of that? All right, hands up. Who thought of that one?
No, not me. So the implication of that is just that future, when they're going after cryptocurrency scams, they will go through the CFTC, and they basically define cryptocurrency as a commodity, and there's far-reaching implications about that. So Chris Giancarlo, the chairman of the CFTC, was commenting on that during his keynote address this morning. I was listening the webcast, and yeah, he was basically touting it as a victory because it streamlines the process. It's a milestone in sort of this forward march that we have to do in terms of catching regulation up to innovation. And so it was just really interesting. It was a really interesting morning. They had a really great panel. There was going to be like 8 different panels, but I found the first one to be the most interesting, simply because there's a lot of like legal representation on it, and then you also saw big names like Kelly Loeffler, who's the CEO of Backed, which is going to be launching in a month, hopefully, maybe, and that's gonna kind of define a new era in cryptocurrency as a whole. But both because for the first time we're going to have physically backed Bitcoin futures, something that we've not seen before, as well as this is going to be I'm going to say the real first foray of Wall Street into the crypto space. Yes, we already have Bitcoin futures. Yes, we already have institutional players moving the chess pieces, if you will. But I think this really represents a new sort of step forwards. So, to that end, we also saw another announcement today of Eris X, which is backed by the SIBO and TD Ameritrade, among many other backers. And so they're also going to be bringing Bitcoin futures, physically backed Bitcoin futures, as well as Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash physically backed futures as well. So this is it's starting to get kind of interesting. It's kind of we're starting to see a lot of institutional players enter the space, and they're bringing their big money pots, and they're betting on their horses, and we're just it's good, it's bad, it's a lot of things, and that's kind of the destiny of crypto right now. Is it's sort of a mixed bag. No one party can control the destiny of it. It's going to be all over the place. So I think there's going to be these next couple of years are critical, and it's kind of interesting to watch history literally unfold in front of us.
Yeah, the positive momentum and the impetus is just amazing to watch. It's this rolling thunder approach. It just keeps we just keep getting one thing after another. So I think we're in the right space at the right time. It's actually probably a good thing right now that we've gone through this cleansing period in the market, just to separate the wheat from the chaff. Yeah. So a couple of questions coming in here. Let's see, CC, do you invest outside of trading in crypto? If so, what are your favorite projects? Well, yeah, like everybody else, I started in the stock market, and what I found in 2004 was I found the options market, which just opened up a whole different world to me. And I'm really looking forward to the great thing about options is that a lot of people think about options as that just puts or calls, and it's sort of a leveraged. It's just more of a leveraged way to trade directionally. But that's really kind of missing the point. What you can also do with options is you can turn yourself into an insurance company. So what you can do is you can think of the market as this sort of river of risk running by all the time. And what you can do is just, grab a cup and just sort of dip out a little cup full of risk on there, and you get paid for that, for taking that risk on. And it's just like an insurance company. That's exactly what they do. And so you can be paid for taking risk out of the market. by selling options instead of buying them. And in that manner, you can actually make income with it. So you can actually do that today, right now, if you really wanted to with Deribit, although I'm not allowed to because I live in the United States. So therefore they say thou shalt not open up an account and thou shalt not trade and those kind of things. And a lot of other ones are like that. But we're starting to see with other brokers come along that's going to be doing that. Like there's a difference between futures exchanges like BitMEX and like Digitex and things like that versus an actual options exchange. So that's where I see a lot of the growth in the markets coming in the next couple of years is some of these derivatives that will allow you to express yourself in ways in the market other than just directional. You'll be able to set up semi-directional, non-directional. You'll be able to sell for income. It's just it's amazing what you can do with that. Now it's very complex. You have to know what you're doing. Much more complex than anything that I've seen in crypto so far. Much more complex than trading futures or anything like that. But the big upside to that is you don't have to be right in terms of direction. It's fascinating. So start boning up on your options theory because by next year I think we'll be looking into something like that.
And that's kind of what I was hinting towards, saying that Backed is sort of this first foray into this new era is, options and just all types of derivatives are, that's the language of Wall Street. That's what those guys speak. And,
it's all about risk management. They don't trade options for leverage.
Yeah.
They trade options because they allow them to manage their risk.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody and institutions will trade without being able to manage their risk. Now, the only way that they can do that right now is with CBOE or CME futures, which are pretty illiquid right now.
Yeah.
And it's only in Bitcoin. It's not in anything else.
Right.
So that's just the tip of the iceberg.
So kind of to that point, after Backed introduces Bitcoin, how long do you think it'll take them to add other coins? This is something I was talking about in the newsletter today, is having ErisX now enter the market, act as a competitor directly to Backed by introducing their own products and solutions and derivatives and whatever. This will charge them with innovating or outcompeting the other platforms out there, and so I think it will be a very short time once they're getting operational. I think their main priority right now is just making sure that they're compliant with the CFTC and actually working. And one thing I talked about in my recent video on Backed was just they have an off-chain settlement layer, and so that should be really interesting to see how they're doing that, because it's almost running like the Lightning Network in the way that they're when you're doing the physically backed, physically settled Bitcoin futures, you're not actually doing that on chain. You're doing this off chain second layer. That's all managed by them. So that I find that kind of interesting how they're handling that. So I can't wait to kind of look at what they're doing there. And it's what it really comes down to is Backed is pretty similar to Coinbase. It's got the backing of Wall Street, whereas Coinbase is a startup. So it's it's a very different animal.
Like a schnauzer.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's see. Any new updates, thoughts about PrefLogic? Yes, PrefLogic is going to be ready to. I think they just launched their MVP, but they're actually going to be. They've got this STO wizard, that is what they've called it, and they're going to be launching in Q1 of 2019. So that should be interesting to see. There's a lot going on with the STO space right now. So I'm not only just bullish on PrefLogic. I like them. I'm full disclosure, I'm an investor in them. But they're just one solution of several now taking the field, and so I'm just trying to stay on top of it as the sort of micro space becomes a macro space. Another big one is polymath. Polymath is probably the biggest one out there, both in terms of funding, but also in terms of name recognition. And, they just have money to throw around right now. And one thing I caution people with is that they are an STO platform, but their coin is a utility token. So you're not actually investing in STOs, you're investing in polymath. So that's one distinction to make. Another one I saw today was Swarm, ticker code SWM. They went up like 110%, and it's come back down to something like 40% last time I checked. But they're another one that is kind of pioneering this sort of STO platform, this security token offering platform, which I think is going to be a very big part of 2019. Sort of, endemic to the larger topic we've been talking about tonight, which is the push towards these regulated exchanges, these regulated coins. This is going to be the big macro trend we see in 2019, where the macro trend in 2017 was all about ICOs. 2018 was sort of a receding of the ICOs and a push towards, okay, that was good, but we need to do better. And so, 2019, I think, is going to be all about, okay, let's actually do better. Let's find ways to, go hand in hand, innovation, regulation. And that's a lot of what I saw, today represent between ErisX and, Chris Giancarlo and the FinTech Forward, CFTC, all the news that came out today. It's just kind of representative of that larger trend. So I've talked a lot, but great questions, guys.
CC was asking, what is my, let's see if I can do blurry here. CC was asking, what is my favorite project out there? Let me answer that in a couple of different ways. I am actually just about a complete opposite investor to Mav. Like, I really don't, I really don't pay too much attention to the actual business case behind the coin, surprisingly, which you'd think is like, well, that's nuts. Why would you do that? Because to me, and I've learned this through trading other assets that are out there. To me, a price chart is a price chart is a price chart. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the instrument is. All price charts operate and function the same way. And they also bake in everything that's known about that asset or coin or token or whatever you want to call it at this very second. Everything is priced to perfection at this very second. So to me, I tend to think in short terms, and for that matter, you don't really need the fundamentals. But with that said, I guess my favorite project right now is probably Digitex, because that allows me to eat my own dog food.
Yeah. Someone called it.
yeah. Digitex is, when we brought this to the room's attention, and it was brought to my attention by one of our premium customers, and when I brought it to the room's attention, it was being priced at 0.8 cents, and today it was up to about 4.5 cents. So that doesn't sound like much, but we're talking about almost a 500% gain if we, which is kind of crazy to think in terms of those. And they're about to go live in the fourth quarter, and I'm going to be trading like a madman on the Digitex exchange. I can't wait to do that with commission-free futures trading. So that's by far my favorite project, and I'm rooting for these guys. I realize how difficult of a project that they've got to get a working exchange going with the kind of liquidity that we need for this. But if they're able to get it off the ground, and if they're not going to block people from the US, then I'm going to be on there all day long. It's going to be awesome.
So CC also asked a question about private peer-to-peer coins, such as Zcash, Monero. So I'm very conflicted on privacy-focused coins, because they are sort of the antithesis of what the government wants, and so naturally they're going to be in the crosshairs of any government operator, any terminator of sorts, regulator, terminator. Trying to make something funny there, but yeah, so that it's a very interesting question, and actually, right before we hopped online here, I was at a meeting with a guy from Enigma, which is sort of they're trying to do stuff like private smart contracts, like secret smart contracts, among many other things. And the larger topic we talked about was sort of the necessity for the privatization of data, especially in this era that we're in, where data is the new oil, and do you have the right to your own private data? Do you have the right to your own private intent on, as it relates to transaction of money? If I pay you $5, does the government need to know that? Currently, no, because physical cash exists. But in the future, where maybe physical cash doesn't exist, or it's receded to the point where it's not used much anymore, yes, blockchain's great for the ability to have a public ledger that is verifiable by anyone, but at the same time, it sort of loses that intrinsic attribute of cash, which is that it's sort of anonymous by default. So it's sort of weird. It's sort of a very interesting. I don't know. It's a complex sort of state that we're in, where we're asking these sorts of questions, and I think there's going to be one solution I've sort of just postulated about is if we ever see a blockchain centric government issued currency, aka a stable coin called the dollar, that the government uses. What if it operated on a blockchain, on a secured blockchain, and public ledger or whatever, but any transaction under $600 would be anonymous. So that sort of allows you to have those anonymous transactions by default, sort of like cash, but it also helps prevent the sort of anti-money laundering, terrorist type stuff. So it's I don't know. I'm not as bullish as I think a lot of other people are on privacy coins, but I'm not bearish either. I don't think that they're going to go away, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, if they're going to have a big year in 2019, I'm not really sure, but I think they will continue to be this sort of really weird, nebulous thing where we're still asking the bigger questions about, like, what is money and what is it going to be doing and where are we going with all this. And so yeah, I think they're just another one of these really interesting subsets of the larger conversations that we're having. So it's a great question, and it's definitely one I just haven't made my mind up on yet, but I really appreciate you asking. So, and then Brandon asked about Ravencoin, and man, I really meant to look at that today and catch up on it, because it's been a while since I've really looked into it. Ravencoin is definitely one of those ones that every time I look into it, I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. So Brandon, let me get back to you on that one. Let me put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that next week, because I need to do my due diligence on Ravencoin, both for myself and to speak to a larger audience. So, but yeah, that's one I keep seeing a lot of stuff about, both in Ready Set Crypto, as well as some of the subreddits that I troll. So good question though. Let's see. Yeah. You have any future? Yeah, so that's the thing about the question is about like SDOs and sort of like where are we going to do with that, and are we going to have a device on it? And yeah, I'd love to be able to give advice on SDOs, because that's something that I'm like incessantly bullish about, because I see it as sort of like a natural you know, this is just so obvious. It really like maybe it won't play out exactly how I think it's gonna play out, but I still think it's gonna play a role in some capacity. Um, so yeah, I'm every day I can that I'm researching as much as I can, and God, I really need to fix that. But yeah, it's I think we're still like maybe a year away. Like think about ICOs in like late 2016. I think that's maybe that's not quite correct in terms of timing, but I think that sort of represents the potential that we're looking at. But the thing with ICOs is they burned out, both because unfortunately people misuse them, but also because their use case was rather limited. Um, a lot of people were trying to miscategorize them. You know, sort of this utility token concept. It's sort of like an arcade token. But at the end of the day, most ICOs are securities. And that's the stance of the SEC, as you know, what is this? Jay Clayton is on the record saying, you know, most ICOs are securities. So there's definitely this impetus towards sort of the security token offering where there's just a necessity for it, you know, to play by the rules. So that I see that as sort of the natural progression state where that is. I mean, there don't get me wrong, there are definitely ICOs. ICOs aren't going away. You know, there's definitely a need for them in some capacity, but the STO is just, I think, a much better vehicle for capital, you know, appreciation or fundraising rather. And one thing I heard the other day that I really liked was that the IPO is sort of dead because it's just you know it yeah, regulated to death. There's just a lot of challenges with it, and so at this point, tokenization of a company's equity is sort of the natural, or like is the impending thing. So I think that's where STOs are going to actually play a big part, because you're able to tokenize your equity and offer it to the public. So it's not just about tokenizing like a building through, you know, like let's tokenize real estate. Let's tokenize this $1 million property, and you know, you can buy $10 worth of this property. You know, yay for the people. No, it's more than that. It's finding different vehicles and, you know, finding different ways to raise capital. So I think it's very different than what the ICO represented, because the ICO was sort of this it was almost a vehicle for hopes and dreams, but it definitely got out of control. And I think that's what 2018 has been all about, is sort of like, all right, let's get back to reality here. Let's actually settle down and move from speculative value into utility value. And so that's kind of where we're going, is you know, that's just the state of the market right now. So yeah, good question.
Let's we got
yeah.
Let's Nish or Nash. Let's see. Is there any way to invest into Backed?
Not that I know of. That's actually, I really should know that. I really don't know if that's because it's not like you can invest in the NYSE, right? You know, or can you invest in Coinbase or Gemini? I don't think so. These are companies that I think they stay private by default, right? I don't know. I'm
no, not all of them. I mean, some of them are public, like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Oh, that's true.
Public. It's a public stock.
Yeah. So I don't think it's public. Nor do I intend. I don't think they intend to go public. But yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think they're just doing a lot of private equity. I think that they know that they've got a golden goose, so they're gonna keep it. But to my point earlier about how it's sort of like Coinbase, I think it's only for institutional investors. That might not be right. In terms of who can invest on it, but it's supposed to be a platform for, you know, this sort of capital flow in terms of getting people into crypto. So yeah, you can invest on Backed, not in Backed.
If you want to invest in an exchange, Digitex. There we go. Digitex. Not that
we're not sponsored. He's not sponsored.
You know.
He just really likes it.
Full disclosure, I am a small investor.
Yeah,
in
buy
Digitex.
his bags.
Yeah, no bags here, man. This thing is
This is very light bags.
very light bags. All right, hey guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I believe I will be doing a trade school tomorrow.
Right on.
So usually at the same bat channel, same bat time. So look for the announcement in the Discord channel. And I don't know what I'm going to do just yet, if there's any votes for what topics to do. This week has been, I've had kind of a gun to my head to get all these materials done for the fractal class. So I'm running as fast as I can. I got people nipping at my heels right now. So you guys are tearing it up in there. So, okay. So
just quickly answers Matt questions, because it's a good one. Matt, just read Christian Carlo's keynote address from the FinTech Forward event today, and he talked about that, and I agree with a lot of what he said. So, cool.
All right. Well, guys, I wanted to thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight, and thanks for being part of Ready Set Live. We will see you guys
See you guys
soon.
Good night.